Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, my fine folks. How are you doing today? Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back to do it again on this Wednesday from the Hard Truth Studios here on, it's going to be another beautiful Wednesday, at least up this way. We still feel sorry for our friends down south in Florida as hurricane is barreling down upon them. I haven't seen the latest on that. I don't think that it is hit land just yet, but appreciate you being with us. As you can see right back there, brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth, there and there, here at the Hard Truth Studios. We'll have some Hard Truth today as Dylann Sinn joins us, Kyle Neddenrip, and Rick Bozich. Kyle had posted something about a commercial, Tyrese Halliburton commercial that I just reposted that was shot in an Indiana gym. And it says, do you recognize this gym? So I have my guess, and I don't know for sure, and I didn't get to look at it enough, but I will ask Kyle about that, and we'll find out. Go look at Kyle's Twitter if you get a second, and you can put your guesses in, and we'll find out. But looking forward to that. We'll talk about, how we talk a lot about college football, as we should, because it's fun, especially now. But high school football getting closer and closer to the playoffs. Who are some of the Indiana Mr. Football candidates? We'll find out who that might be. And Dylann Sinn joins us. We'll get caught up on the Big Ten. Notre Dame has snuck back in to the college football playoff conversation, even though they lost at home to Northern Illinois. If that's anybody else, they're gone. But Alabama losing to Vanderbilt, they dropped 7 spots. So, I was thinking last night, let's say Indiana is able to go, if they're able to make it to the Ohio State game unscathed, and if they lose that game and go 11-1, by the time they get to that Ohio State game, they should be well inside the top 10. And if they lose to Ohio State, they shouldn't move but a couple of spots. And if they anything other than that will be utterly ridiculous. So, but you never know. So we'll check that out. Appreciate everybody joining us here, no matter where and how you're listening. Our friends down on the river on 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, down in the Evansville area, up in the region on the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380, The Fan. Make sure you keep it tuned right here after we're finished, because they've plenty more great content coming your way. So keep it tuned right there. Or if you're listening on YouTube, we appreciate you. And if you're just joining us, make sure you subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button and the notifications toggle, so that way you don't miss a thing. We've got plenty of added content. We're here every day. And the Indiana football postgame shows, in addition to the basketball postgame shows that will be starting soon. Man, I'm going to have to put in for a raise. Unfortunately, I work for a tyrant, and he's not very kind in that area. Appreciate everyone joining us on the Andy Moore Honda hotline as well. I noticed Andy Moore Honda's got a lot of great things. For those of you in the market for an automobile, they've got the all-new, all-electric vehicle, the Honda Prologue. And you can get that for 0.9% financing. All kinds of great stuff going on. Donald's on from Atlanta, Heath from Danville, Larry, Las Vegas Larry. As always, Fred from Easton, the Easton Assassin over in Pennsylvania. 5, Tyrone down in Jeffersonville. You know, Tyrone, if you want to do us a favor, you should call WXVW down there. That's where we started at. Tell them you want to hear the Indiana Sports Beat Radio back. It's where we started, and we've got a lot of great friends down there, a lot of great listeners, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Let's see. Russell asking, will there be a show today? Well, yeah, of course there is. We're here, man. We're here. Brian says, good morning from evacuation location in Orlando. Speaking of the devil, I hope things are going okay. I saw the exodus from Florida on TV, a mass exodus from the Tampa area. And yeah, that's looking like that's going to be, it's going to be a direct hit at some form or fashion, unfortunately, for those folks down there. I know that it has affected some games. I think, who was it? Was it Jacksonville that left already for a game in New Orleans? Someone has already left Florida to get ahead of that. So we'll see. Brian talking about the Indiana football offense, best red zone offense in the nation. Absolutely. 37 trips to the red zone, 34 scores. What happened on those all of last season? How you made it to the red zone 33 times. Yeah, that's comparing that team to this team, apples and oranges, because it's like comparing whoever the worst team in the NFL is right now to, I hate to say the Kansas City Chiefs, but the offense kind of reminds me of the Chiefs, not without Patrick Mahomes. He's a much different type of quarterback than, say, Indiana's Curtis Rourke. But yeah, they are just efficient. That's all you can say. They're smart. They're efficient. They have a lot of weapons. It starts and ends with the quarterback. He's a smart guy. He doesn't make mistakes. And that's huge right there. That's a great number to throw up there, Brian. Thank you. But that's one of the reasons why Indiana is successful among multiple. But Curt Cignetti has been able to institute this offense into a group that all these guys that did not play for him before, all these guys that didn't play under this offense before, and they've all been able to quickly and seamlessly get it and run it. It looks like they've been running this offense for years. But that's what happens when you have talent, and they have that. They have a plethora of wide receivers, a plethora of running backs. The offensive line doing a great yeoman's job up until now. They have to get a ton of credit, which means a ton of credit goes to Bob Bostat. Defense has done a great job. They're going to have to continue to improve, because that's going to be the difference going forward for this Indiana football team for the remainder of the season is the defense. The offense is only going to continue to slightly get better week after week, and they're already pretty damn good. When you're leading stats like that, yeah, that's not going to change much. But the defense is going to have to tighten up a bit. But that's the thing, is when you're playing Indiana, you're going to have to outscore them. That's the long and the short of it. You're going to have to outscore Indiana. And we'll see how that works out for teams like Michigan, who doesn't score a ton. I don't know that Nebraska has scored a lot. Washington is same. Michigan State. That's the advantage Indiana has going forward. I truly believe, and not that that's what you want to rely on. You want to be good on both sides of the ball, but that's the pretty good one. Heath asking, is WoWo still a station in Fort Wayne? Why, hell yeah, it is. One of the only clear stations in America, one of the original 50,000 watt stations up there in Fort Wayne. Of course, a sister station to 1380. Boy, if we were on WoWo, they'd be hearing us blasted all over the world. But we've got lots more coming up for you. Dylann Sinn from, speaking of Fort Wayne, the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette will join us next. We'll get caught up on everybody throughout the state. As far as football, Notre Dame, like I said, Notre Dame back into the conversation. Indiana and Notre Dame play. It's not that far away. It's in 2030. But if you think about it, beginning of next season, you're only 5 years away. And that 5 years goes quicker than you think. And then Notre Dame will come to Bloomington. So lots of fun stuff to talk about today. As I said, Dylann Sinn joins us next. Kyle Nenrip will join us. And the captain, Rick Bozich, as well. We're back with plenty more on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Ravesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Wednesday. He joined our friend Dylann Sinn from Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dylann, it has been a fun football season, at least on the college side of things. I know that, of course, Indiana has just shocked a lot of people. Some people are not shocked. There are few people. Me, I'm not shocked at all. I expected this, and I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at a ticket a bet that I placed at the beginning of the season for wins on the season, and it's already ready to be cashed. So
wasn't IU's expected win total like over under 3.5 or something like that?
No, most gave it 5.5. Personally, I got it at 6.
Okay.
So, but yeah, whoops, sorry about that. It's just been a different year for Indiana fans, no matter what. But we've seen some numbers thrown up this morning. And last year, Indiana scored 266 points all season. That's an average of 22 points per game. Well, that's like a halftime for this team. As a matter of fact, it's about exactly a halftime for this team, as they have already scored 285 points or 47.5 points per game. And I was talking before you joined us, that is going to be the difficulty in anybody they play, is slowing that offense down. The defense is going to have to continue to improve, no doubt, but whoever they play are going to have to outscore Indiana, because Indiana is more than efficient. Last week at Northwestern, they don't score in their first 2 drives and then score 7 straight. So that's just an efficiency rating that is exceptional. I don't care who you're playing. People keep talking about you still have to do it, and they have done it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think that the people who are complaining about the schedule, I understand it, because it does seem weird for Indiana to be where they are, because they're Indiana, right? Like it's a natural response to something that we haven't seen in a long time, or maybe ever. So it's a natural response. But the thing is, Indiana is in the top 10 or top 15 of basically every opponent adjusted efficiency metric. All of the opponent adjusted metrics have Indiana as one of the better teams in the country. The thing is, they're not just, it would be one thing if they were playing these really poor teams and just barely getting by, and then other teams were blowing those teams out, but they're not, right? Indiana is winning these games by huge margins. And then like for UCLA, for example, UCLA is a great example because we've seen them against other competition. UCLA in the last 4 weeks has played Indiana, Oregon,
brutal,
Penn State,
LSU,
Penn State, and LSU. It's played those 4 teams in a row, right?
They played at Penn State, at LSU.
Yes, the largest margin of victory in any of those 4 games for them was Indiana, right? None of those teams beat UCLA as bad as Indiana beat them. And I'm not saying like you can't use the transitive
property. And they did it on the road again.
And they did it on the road. So and you can't use the transitive property all the time, but it does go to show, with 3 games of evidence, it does go to show that UCLA is hanging in these games in a way they really didn't against Indiana, right? So so Indiana is very obviously a good team. It is now just a question of, you're going to have these toss-up games going forward. You have 3 games that I consider mostly toss-ups that are going to, that Indiana has a chance to win, with Washington, Michigan, and Nebraska over the next several weeks, right? I think that if you win 2 of those games, you are in really good position, but you have to go win the games, right? Like it is something where they are going to be in those games. I don't think any of those teams are going to blow them out, but you have to go win the games, and they have not. That is the one concern that I have about this team, is they have not been in a game in the fourth quarter yet, really. Like Northwestern was close, but they went down and scored, and it wasn't too difficult. I want to see Indiana in a game against a team in the fourth quarter, and that is something that I think they'll be ready for. I think Kurt Cignetti as a coach will have them ready for that game, for that type of game, but we haven't seen it yet. I think that's the missing piece of their resume, is going and winning a game that is down to the wire, and I want to see that.
Well, you should get that opportunity at some point over the next 6 games.
Yeah.
And you never know when it's going to be. After watching Vanderbilt and Alabama, hey, you never know when or where that's going to be. And that's why
absolutely
you cannot discount anything Indiana has done. Every time someone brings up, I'm like, wait a minute. They have 3 conference wins amongst those 6 wins already. And if you don't think winning on the road in your conference is difficult, go ask Kalen DeBoer about it. They were the number 1 team in the country, and they got beat by one of the worst programs in the country. It happens from time to time. That's the stuff that used to always happen to Indiana. Now, Indiana also has something that they have never had: a target on their back.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's the thing, is that people have kind of, if the kind of national college football consciousness has not woken up to Indiana being a good team, I guarantee you coaches watching film have woken up to Indiana being a good team. Like Nebraska and Matt Rule are going to be ready for Indiana when they come to Bloomington in 2 weeks, right? It is going to be one of those things where Matt Rule is saying, hey, this is one of the best teams in our conference. You need to come out and be ready to play. This is not the Indiana that you guys remember. And they're going to put on the film and they're going to say, see, these guys are good, and they will run you over if you are not prepared. And so Matt Rule is a very good coach. Nebraska is going to be ready when they come into that game. So it is going to be one of those things where Indiana is going to have to be prepared to get punched in the mouth and then keep coming forward. Because I do think Nebraska is going to be fired up coming into that game. It is a game that is going to kind of, one of those 2 teams is going to be in the upper echelon of the Big Ten when the season is over. The top 3 are the top 3 with Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State. But I think the 4th best team in the conference, that crown is really up for grabs. And Indiana is right there in the mix for it. But so is Nebraska, and so is Michigan, and so is Washington. And so you're going to have to win those games and go earn it, right? Because the 4th best team in the conference is right there on the fringes of college football playoff consideration. If you want to be in that conversation, you got to go earn it.
And that 4th team, you don't want to be the 4th team. You want to be the 3rd team.
Sure.
Or the 2nd team.
Sure.
Or the 1st team. But I'm trying to stay within reality here.
Yeah.
I was talking about this last night. There are going to probably be, I think, 4 Big Ten teams that are college football playoff conversationalists. Given there's going to be 2, the champion of the conference, the runner-up, whoever loses the Big Ten championship game, doesn't matter that they get another loss. It's like that loss doesn't count, and it shouldn't. They still go into the college football playoffs. But who the 3rd and 4th place teams could potentially have a better record than the runner-up, because you could have, let's say Ohio State goes 12-0. All right. That means they will have beaten Indiana, Penn State, and Oregon, first of all. So they're locked in no matter what. But that leaves, let's say Penn State, Oregon, and Indiana are able to go 11-1. They beat everyone but Ohio State on their schedule. So now you're going to have a 3-way tie of who gets into the Big Ten championship game to play Ohio State. And that's going to be big, because whoever that is, I think automatically gets a playoff berth. The 3rd, then the difference between 3rd and 4th in the Big Ten, that could be a decider on who gets in and who does not get into the college football playoffs. You could have an 11-1 Big Ten team in and 1 out, maybe, if they're not inclined to put 4 Big Ten teams in.
Right. And basically what's probably going to happen, the way this is shaping up is the SEC is probably going to get 4 in, and then you're talking about the Big Ten getting 3 or 4, depending on how things shake out with basically Clemson, I think, because Miami is probably going to win the ACC, and Clemson is probably going to finish second. Okay, does Clemson get in then, right? And so it's just a question of that's kind of the way I see things shaking out. So it's a question of if the SEC gets 4 in, does the Big Ten also get 4? Does it settle for 3? And I think that you can put yourself in position to be that 4th team. If you're Indiana, there is a not insignificant possibility that you are the 4th best team in the Big Ten, and maybe more, but it's going to be hard to prove that you're more because you don't play anyone except Ohio State. You don't play Oregon or Penn State, so it's going to be hard to prove it. So
I mean, wins over Michigan and Nebraska and Washington now, since Washington beat Michigan. If you're able to beat Nebraska, Washington, and Michigan,
absolutely,
Michigan State on the road, I'm like, to me, I'm like, dude, what else do you want? My God, they've done they've done with these numbers.
And if you look impressive doing it, I think you will be in consideration. I think that the way this is going to work is the playoff committee is going to probably favor SEC and Big Ten teams to a certain extent. I think that's just kind of reality. That's how it's going to work because those conferences are so deep. And I do think that Indiana is going to get a fair shot here. I know that there are concerns that because they're Indiana, they're going to be thought lesser of. I don't think that's the case. I think that the fact that they are in the Big Ten is a point in their favor rather than being Indiana being a detraction. So Indiana's going to get their fair shot. You win your games, you're going to be in consideration. And that starts with Nebraska in 2 weeks. If the bye week comes at the perfect time for them, they can rest, regroup, and get ready for what will be the biggest game of their season to date. And then there will be bigger games beyond that. So it is kind of crunch time here for Indiana as they get ready for the home stretch of the season.
And also it's, the AP poll, it has nothing to do with the college football selection committee.
No, it doesn't.
So
totally
that helps immensely. And it won't, the first one does not come out until after Indiana plays Nebraska. Right. And once that happens, Indiana is undervalued in the AP poll right now. They're undervalued because they didn't get in until after they had already won 5 games. Now they're 6-0 and they're still down where many one-loss teams are because they're quote unquote behind. They should be ranked ahead of Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost at home to Northern Illinois. I don't give a crap what they've done since. So, but that's people that are the national people who are just basically looking at Indiana from the outside, and I get it, and thinking, wow, this is Indiana. They suck, which they always have, but they don't now. And there's people are starting to come around, but I'm a little surprised by the lack of acceptance in the polls a little bit, because of all the numbers that they have that are going along with what they're doing. You're a voter, right?
Yeah, I am. I think Indiana is 18th in the poll this week. I had them 15th, I believe.
Yeah, I saw another outlet that had them at 14th, which is probably, I'm not going to say that's where they should at least be there because of their slow start. But if they hadn't have, if they start the season like some of these other teams did, well, hell, they could potentially be a top 10 team along with Oregon. What has Oregon done?
Yeah. So Oregon, that's the thing. So the reason it's difficult for Oregon is a really tough team to figure out because they started the season slowly. They almost lost to an FCS team, but they didn't, and they've gotten better since then. They kicked the crap out of Oregon State. They beat Boise State on the road.
What's Oregon State done though?
That's true. That's true. So it is a question now of Oregon has to go prove it this week. They're playing Ohio State. We're gonna see if they're any good at all. I'm still unclear about them. I looked at them before the season and thought this is a team that could contend for a national championship. Their offensive line has been disappointing to me, but it's getting better. So it's a question of how much do you weigh your preseason expectations of this team, especially if they haven't lost, versus what you've seen on the field. And now can you are they just kind of playing possum until they play Ohio State? Can they take it up a level when they play against an elite opponent? We don't know, right? If they go out there this week and get blasted by Ohio State, it's like, okay, they're just the team that struggled against Boise State and struggled against Idaho, and we don't really have to pay them much mind anymore. But if they go out there and either beat Ohio State or lose by 3-7, then what, right? Then it's like, okay, they're about as good as we thought they were. So I am looking forward. I mean, I'm looking forward to that game because I think it's going to be a fantastic football game. But I'm also looking forward to that game because we don't really know very much at all about Oregon and, quite frankly, Ohio State, who I thought was going to win the national championship at the start of the season and has been very good, but not quite to the level I thought they would be. Like they've blown out everyone they've played. They haven't really played anyone either. They beat Iowa last week 35-7. Good for them. But everything for Ohio State for several years now has just felt really hard. Like they're obviously so incredibly talented. They have so many great players on that team, especially on offense. And it just seems at times like it's pulling teeth. And until they break a 70-yard run, and it's like, okay, that's the team we expected to see. So I'm fascinated by that game. I want to see it. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. But I am also interested because it is the first time we have seen either of those teams against a truly elite opponent. So I'm interested by that as well.
Yeah, my top 5 that I have right now in my power index, and this is some people will say, oh, Holber, Ohio State at the top. They're the king until someone knocks them off the throne.
Sure.
I've got Indiana number 2. Indiana, no one has done to me what Indiana has done up until this point. Everyone else, all these teams are in the same boat. They all played well, but they haven't had that signature win to blow about. Penn State probably has maybe one of the best wins, I guess, against Illinois, but that was at home, and they only scored 21 points in that game. They do hold Illinois to 7, but they only scored 21 points. Their offense is where they hurt. Tom Allen has got the defense playing really well for Penn State, but their offense is very suspect, and I don't see Penn State as a team that can outscore Indiana if they were head-to-head. And then I've got Oregon and Illinois. That's my top 5 right there. And I think it's legit.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, I can totally understand that. Like I love Illinois. Like I think Illinois is a really good team, and Penn State scoring 21 against Illinois is not a super red flag to me, just because that defense to Illinois is mean, nasty, and it's going to hit you. Like the Penn State got up 14-7 in that game and then kind of parked the bus. They were like, Illinois is not going to score on us again, which shows the faith that James Franklin has in Tom Allen, kind of funnily enough. But I do think Penn State can score a little bit when they need to. But I would actually be really interested to see an Indiana Penn State game. I think that would be fascinating. Because Drew Aller, Penn State's quarterback, has been a little bit rough against pressure. I think that's what Indiana's defense wants to do, is create pressure up the field against the quarterback and kind of make him speed up his processing a little bit, which Aller has been okay but not great at. So I'd be interested in that game. I do think that you can make a case, resume-wise, you can make a case for Indiana right now as high up as you want to be in the Big Ten. It's just a question now of proving it on the field against some better teams. And I do like Nebraska. I think Nebraska is a good team. I think a win against Nebraska would be indisputably a very good win for Indiana. I'm sure people would try to knock it down as well. Nebraska hasn't been good in years. Nebraska is a good team, and Indiana beating them would be an absolute game changer for the Hoosiers in terms of expectations for the season.
Yeah, Tom says, Jim, you keep talking numbers for IU. They haven't played a quality opponent yet, out of conference, and 3 of the weaker teams in the Big Ten. Numbers should be good. Well, that's easy to say, but guess what? They played this kind of schedule before and never had anything close to this. These other teams, who the hell have they played? Most of them have not played a quote-unquote quality opponent yet either. It's early in the season, but Indiana is doing things that hasn't been done by their program period, but it's also by no one else in the country. I mentioned earlier, someone put up, they're the top team in the red zone in the country. They get to the red zone, they score. That's efficiency. That is doing things right, not making mistakes, not killing yourself. That means something. You're playing still against Division I teams. You went on the road twice in the Big Ten so far, and you have wins. Again, ask Alabama how that works. It is tough no matter what. So I disagree with you. When you're 6 games into a season, you're averaging almost 48 points a game. No. Those numbers they resonate.
Yeah, I do think it's important. Again, it's important to note that, like, I understand that sentiment. I do. But Indiana's the numbers that they have put up are very good on an opponent adjusted basis, which means that they are among the best teams in the country, even adjusting for their opponent and what they've done. Their numbers are among the best, right? Like you can find all of these advanced numbers that say here's what a team against this schedule would do. A good team against this schedule would do. Indiana is checking every single box, right? Because it's not, again. So think of it this way: another team that was undefeated going into this past week was Duke. Duke was 5-0 going into this past week, but Duke was nowhere near the top 25, and their advanced metrics were not very good at all because they were just squeaking by against these poor teams, right? And then Duke went out and lost this week to Georgia Tech because Duke wasn't a very good team, even though they were 5-0. That's the difference between Duke and Indiana, is that Indiana was not only winning these games against bad teams, they were winning them handily. When you're a good team and you play a bad team, you are supposed to win handily. Indiana has done that all year. They aren't just 6-0. They've won 6 games by at least 14 points, 5 of them by at least 17, right? They are not just squeaking by. They're not needing miracles to win these games. They're going out and beating these teams handily. Northwestern's defense going into this last game, was considered a top 25 defense in the country. Indiana hung 41 points on, right? Say what you will about Northwestern as a team. I don't think they're very good. They're
4 turnovers.
Turnovers. I'm talking about Northwestern.
Oh, my bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
how about the Maryland game, though? You turn the ball over 4 times and you still put 40 points on the board? Hello.
Against the defense that was considered top 40 or 50 in the country. Maryland is not a good defense, but it's not a terrible one either. And they went out and gave up 42 to Indiana with 4 turnovers, right? Northwestern is going to go 5-7 this year probably, or maybe 4-8, but their defense is very, very good. It's top 25 in the country, and Indiana put 41 points on them. They moved through them like hot butter, right? So it's what the only thing you can do in college football, because it's such a small sample size, is you can only look at what you've done against the teams in front of you. Indiana has not only won games, they've won games by big margins. And that's what a good team does against bad teams. Now, they're going to have a chance to prove that they're a good team against good teams going forward. But what they've done so far indisputably says they are a good team. It is just a question now of winning toss-up games against other good teams. I think that Nebraska is a good team. I think Washington is a good team. I think Michigan is an okay team that Indiana should beat, quite frankly. I think Ohio State is a great team that Indiana is going to struggle against, but we'll see. So now it is a question of, okay, you have proven you are a good team. Can you win against other good teams? And that is going to be the question going forward. I think Indiana will be in those games. Do you have the mettle to do it? Is all of this stuff you talked about, changing the culture and changing the expectations, is that going to show up in the fourth quarter of these games? Because Indiana has had some very good fourth quarters this season. They had a good fourth quarter against Northwestern. They had a good fourth quarter against Maryland. They had a good fourth quarter against UCLA when they really needed all 3. Go do it against a really good team when it's a one-score game. Let's see.
Yeah, but that's a mark of a great team.
I think so. I think so.
Not only that, you mentioned earlier, UCLA, okay, they go to LSU and play in Death Valley, where I thought they were going to get murdered. Worse than Indiana, anything Indiana thought of doing to them in Pasadena. But it wasn't the case. At halftime, it was a 17-17 tie. But everyone, or not everyone, but there are still people that want to, poo-poo on, and I'm like, I'm sorry. No, you can't just not break, but smash, destroy records like they are doing and it not mean something. So, hey, we'll take a quick break. Dylann Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette is with us. We'll come back and we'll talk about the Big Ten in general. Purdue's probably going to be looking for a new coach after this year, I would have to think, but who knows? After 2 seasons of Ryan Walters not going too well, and then the Big Ten as a whole. But lots more coming up with us. Appreciate you being with us as we're coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios. And that was the Hard Truth. We've got more coming for you right after this break.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Wednesday. Speaking of the Ugly Grouper, our friends down on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Hope all is going well there, as they were kind of right in the path the last I saw. Has the hurricane landed, I think? Is it already made landfall?
The second one, I don't know if it has yet. I think it's either coming very soon, I think. But I think they're still trying to get people out of there.
Yes, and let's hope they do. I know that the Ugly Grouper located on Anna Maria Island, Florida, is just west of Sarasota, just south of Tampa.
So yikes. And I know that they got hit from the last one. So let's hope that they are. No, it's not made landfall yet, but it's still out there swirling. But yeah, we're thinking about all of our peeps in Florida, and hope you guys are safe and either gotten out or very. Look, hey, how about our Reds? Terry Francona, hell of a hire.
Who's our Reds? Who's our Reds? I'm a Cubs fan.
Well, you know, I'm doing some recruiting, man. I'm doing some recruiting.
That's right. No, Terry Francona is like he was great for the entire time he was in Cleveland. He was great for the entire time he was in Boston. He's one of the best managers in the game today, and
I love him. I think it was a great. The Reds don't do a lot of great stuff, but man, now you've got a great manager with some great young talent.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun to see that team grow over the next several years here because they do have a young core that is kind of growing up together right now, and it hasn't come together quite yet, but you can kind of see the vision of where they're going. And Francona is the type of guy that if they're going to get there, he's going to help them get there. So I'm interested in seeing that as the next couple of years unfold here. It was a similar position as what Cleveland was in when he took over there. They had a young core. He helped them grow up into a playoff team and eventually a World Series contender. And I think he could do the same thing in Cincinnati.
We'll certainly find out. It's been a hard thing to do, but the Big Ten overall, Purdue picked to finish last, so there was not the expectations were not high. Which, first of all, that's not a good sign when you go when your conference adds 4 teams and yet you're still picked to finish last. That was not a good sign. And the fact that everyone kind of knew that this Purdue team made zero headway, and then you fire your offensive coordinator mid-season, and you replace him with basically a guy who's coached high school most of the time. Boy, they're making some Indiana moves right now.
Yeah. The problem is, you fired the offensive coordinator, but the defense is every bit as bad as the offense, right? And so I don't know exactly where they go.
Ryan Walters is Mr. Defense.
He is. And the defensive coordinator is his guy that he brought with him from Illinois. Like Walters was the defensive coordinator at Illinois. Kevin Kane was the linebackers coach, and he's now the defensive coordinator at Purdue. So I don't see exactly where they go from here because their schedule is very difficult. They play Illinois this week. They have Oregon next week after they play after Oregon plays Ohio State. So maybe Oregon is a little banged up from that game, and Purdue can hang around a little bit longer than you'd expect, but maybe not. They still play Ohio State and Penn State, and then they have Indiana at the end of the season. They have 5 teams currently in the top 25, and they're already 1-4. It's going to be extremely difficult to pull this thing out of the fire for Purdue. Like Wisconsin is not a good team. Wisconsin is a pretty poor team, quite frankly, and it's been very disappointing what has happened with Luke Fickell in his 2 years there. But they just destroyed Purdue. That game was not close after the middle of the second quarter. It was 52-6. The entire Purdue and Wisconsin have been playing since 1892. That was the first time they played, 1892. There has never been a game that lopsided in the entire history of the series until now. And so, and this is not a good Wisconsin team. So I don't know where Purdue goes from here. They've had some injuries. Injuries have been a significant part of what's happening there. Is that a lot of their kind of prized transfer commitments that they brought in, because I thought they were going to be a little bit better than this, just because they did bring in a nice recruiting class. They did bring in some very highly thought of transfers, but a lot of those transfers have been hurt at various points throughout the season, and they haven't been able to gel together. They're missing their best wide receiver, 2 of their best wide receivers right now. Their quarterback is not playing well, and the defense is just not stopping anybody. They aren't doing a good job of stopping people. They've kind of moved some players around. Dylann Thieneman and Kedron Jenkins are their 2 best defensive players, and those guys have been moved essentially around the field, trying to get them in better positions. So I don't see what there is to be optimistic about right now for this team, which is not a good thing to say when you're in year 2 of a new regime and your rival has taken this meteoric rise in year 1. So I've been of the opinion all along that Walters is going to get a 3rd season, because Purdue doesn't fire coaches after 2 years. That's not how it works. But if you go 2-10 or 1-11, you have to think long and hard about the direction of the program and whether it's possible for a first-time head coach to pull it out of this nosedive.
Yeah, it's just not looking good. And in this era, you can't wait. Before it was different. You gave guys the opportunity because there was the development aspect. Well, that aspect has been cut in half because of the transfer portal. And when you see what people like Kurt Cignetti's doing, which again, that's kind of catching lightning in a bottle.
It is.
Indiana for once made not only the right hire, but the best hire. It is a hand in glove for the Hoosiers. And like a lot of other hires at Purdue, this one just didn't work out, unfortunately. But Ryan Walters, had he ever been a head coach?
No, so that was the thing, is that they wanted to get in on the ground floor of a guy they thought was a rising star. Like he was one of the best.
Why? First of all, I'd ask why. Why do you want to start at the bottom? Because guess what? You're going to start at the bottom.
Yeah, I think it was more that they thought that he'd be a good head coach, and they wanted to be like, he's going to be a high level head coach one day, and we want to be like where he gets his start, right? Like he was a very, very good defensive coordinator for several years there at Illinois. Those defenses were mean and nasty, and they were very good. And they thought, okay, he can bring that to Purdue and then also build a good offense and kind of start on his path to being a high level head coach. That seemed to be kind of the assumption at Purdue, was that this is a rising star. We're going to get 3 or 4 or 5 good years out of him, and then he's going to move on to something bigger and better. And it does not seem like that is the trajectory this is going. Again, I think he's energetic, and I think he knows defense. I don't know exactly what the plan is on offense at this point. I know that the defense has not been very good either.
Segment is brought to you by the Fresh.
But yeah, but I just don't know what the plan is to get this offense to even semi-competence over the back half of the season. Because again, like you said, you fired your offensive coordinator. The current offensive play caller, he's not the offensive coordinator, he's the offensive play caller, is a guy who's most of his experience is in high school. So yeah, I'm just curious as to how this goes the rest of the year, because you could have a situation where you lose the locker room. I don't think that's happened yet. By all accounts, that has not happened yet, and everything like that. So we'll have to see whether that can stay together, because this team seems like in the preseason, one of the reasons that I was relatively bullish on this team, like bullish as in they could win 5 games because the schedule was so hard, was that it seemed like a team that had some cohesion to it, despite the fact that there were so many, despite the fact that there were so many transfers. But that cohesion has been lost to a certain extent because of all the injuries they've suffered, and it's really hard to get it back in the middle of the season. So there's not much to be optimistic about there right now.
And earlier there was a comment about Indiana not having done what they've done against anybody, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to compare them against Notre Dame for a second. Who was Notre Dame beaten?
So Notre Dame's best
LSU,
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
Texas
Okay.
A&M. Yes, who is 5-1? At Texas A&M. At Texas A&M on the road.
Oh, they were at. So that's a great win. But I
want
to compare some numbers other than that game.
Sure.
Notre Dame has a total of 20 touchdowns on this season.
Yes.
You know how many Indiana has? Double that. 38. They're a scoring machine. Notre Dame only has 5 passing touchdowns. Indiana has 23?
14. Because
15 passing touchdowns.
Curtis Rourke
23 rushing touchdowns.
Curtis Rourke has 14. 23. There you go. Okay.
I believe Notre Dame has 10 rushing touchdowns. Is that right?
Yeah, so that sounds right to me. Notre Dame has not moved the ball very well on offense. They've gotten better as the season has gone on. Notre Dame has one of the best defenses in the country. That's where they've made their mark, is their defense has been awesome the entire year. The advanced metrics, I think the advanced metric that I saw yesterday had them as the second best defense in the whole country. So it's just a question of, for Notre Dame, figuring out how to move the ball on offense. They've gotten better, right? They scored 31 against Louisville, who people think is a pretty good team. I don't know exactly how good they are. But they went out and scored 31 against Louisville before the break. They play Stanford this week. Notre Dame is going to get a chance to prove how good they are before the season ends because they do play some pretty good teams. Army and Navy are kind of in the same position, quietly. Army and Navy are in the same position as Indiana, where they're undefeated. They haven't played anyone, but they are undefeated and are just beating everyone badly.
Yes, they are, buddy, and it's looking fun. We'll see.
Army and Navy's like average victory totals are.
I think we were losing Dylan there, but it's an opportune time. We'll take a quick break. We've got lots more coming up here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Kyle Neddenrip will join us, and we'll talk about Indiana Mr. Football candidates and as they get closer and closer to the playoffs. Rick Bozich, he'll join us later. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Hey, welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always on this beautiful Wednesday at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Have you had a chance to get over? Visit Hard Truth in Nashville? Man, right now, beautiful. Brown County, Indiana. Just one of the most gorgeous places around, of course, but the distilling company, man, they've got a full-service restaurant where you can have some great food, sit down and watch some games, hang out outside, enjoy the beautiful fall weather. Also enjoy some incredible Hard Truth products, like their sour mash bourbons, cinnamon vodka, toasted coconut rum. They got it all, baby. Looking forward to Kyle Neddenrip joining us here in a little bit, hopefully. I wanted to talk about some potential football candidates. One right up the road in Martinsville, A.J. Reynolds, quarterbacking up there, having a good run so far. I know his dad, Jim, listens to our show each day. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So hopefully we'll send Kyle a text to make sure he's all right today to step in. But they're deep into the high school football season as far as getting close to the playoffs. Playoffs? Yep, playoffs. Who's going to make it? Well, everybody makes it, but who's going to come out of there? It's been kind of a different season, but I'm looking forward to it. Talking about the
playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Oh, I hear you, but hopefully we can talk about that with Kyle. Let me see what he has to say. But Rob, bring Rob in here, as a matter of fact, our new producer, Rob. Rob, having trouble getting him on there. Let's see. I guess he is on there, but I don't have. There we go. Rob, how are you, brother?
I'm good. How you doing?
Cannot complain. High school sports up in the region going on this weekend as well. You guys got any? Who are the teams up there that are making some noise?
So the biggest one that I'm sure you guys have heard down south, of course, has to be the
down
Crown Point Bulldogs.
Down south. Did you hear that, people? Down south.
Yeah. Up here, in Northwest Indiana, we've got some solid teams, but the biggest one would have to be Crown Point. Crown Point, one loss over the past 2 seasons, led by their quarterback, Noah Ehrlich. They're currently 6-0, and their average on beating every team is about 34 points per game. But his stats don't even look as great as they possibly could be because the starters end up resting most of the second half. They've got some really good ballers over there, and a lot of people are expecting them to at least make it a semi-state where they could run into Westfield, which is, of course, who they played last year, beat them in overtime before they lost to Ben Davis in the state championship.
I remember when I was young, the northern part of the state seemed to own football. The Hobart Brickies. Let's see, I'm trying to think of some of the other. Penn. All those teams up there were so good, and not that they're not good now, but I guess part of it has been the class, the changes to class. Well, there was always classes in football. They've just grown, but it seems like things have shifted kind of to central Indiana.
Yeah, it really has. As up there, we have some good talent there, especially when you look at the basketball side too. But when you look at football, we really come down to the powerhouses in Indianapolis. And now you look at, of course, last year with basketball, and you looked at Fishers, there's just a lot of talent coming out of the Indy area now. And I know we have talent up here, especially, I already mentioned Crown Point. You mentioned the Brickies. Maryville's always got a good team. Valpo's pretty solid. They actually met last week, and Maryville put a beating on Valpo. Wasn't expecting it to be that lopsided from 2 teams that I believe are both top 5 in the 5A. But yeah, it's crazy when you look at the talent that's been up here in Northwest Indiana. But I think you're right. I mean, that Indy area, it's really just different now. It's hard to really go against them when it comes to the state tournament.
Well, there's a huge difference between, say, Indiana and Kentucky. Down in Kentucky, they are dominated by the Catholic schools, Trinity, St. X, those kinds of in Louisville, those kinds of schools dominate a lot of things. At least they did for a while. In Indy, that hasn't been the case. It was still the public schools for the most part that are the big dominant schools. But of course, you've got schools like Carmel that have 5,000 people, or students rather, and amongst others. I mean, that's the largest. But yeah, it's a different monster in Indianapolis.
One thing that was very interesting to me. So this past Friday, I was working the Andrean versus Bishop Chatard game. And of course, Bishop Chatard, they just moved up to 4A. They've been dominant through football over the recent years. I believe they won 2 or 3 state titles in a row or something. Andrean jumped out to a 4-0 lead, and their best player, Jimmy Finley, who's a commit to NIU, he scored 2 quick touchdowns. I mean, boom, boom, right away. And the crazy part is Bishop Chatard ended up winning the game 39-14. It just everything changed in the second half. But my favorite part of the fact that I learned from Bishop Chatard is that they don't have one player on their team that plays both ways. Everyone either plays offense or defense. And you look up here, I mean, Finley doesn't leave the field unless there's an injury. Up here, a lot of guys, they have to play both ways. But when you have a powerhouse like that, that's such an advantage. No one's going to get tired when they're on the field.
When I was in high school, I remember beginning my junior year when I was starting on varsity. That was the first year we had a 2 platoon system as well. I mean, the offense was the offense, the defense was the defense, and there was no crossover, which was great. It truly was. And I was like, wow. And this was a long time ago, but yeah, it made a huge difference. And the next year we lost some of that talent from the year before. So there was a little bit of crossover the following year. There had to be, but yeah, when you're able to do that, it's ungodly different, because I would still, after playing just one side after a game, be so unbelievably tired. It still, I can still look back. I remember being out after a game with my girlfriend at the time and her parents, to dinner after a game, and literally falling asleep sitting in the booth. And fell asleep. But that was just playing one side. But fun, all the fun days, the fun times. But so who's up that you can see really making a shot at making some noise in the state tournament?
So the first team, again, I would mention Crown Point. They should get through sectionals. Their biggest challenge in sectionals will probably be Penn, but I believe that they should handle them. Their biggest challenge will be Westfield, which I think Westfield is ranked 2nd currently in the state. I could be wrong on that exact number, but I know that they're in the top 5 with Crown Point as well. At 5A, you could see Maryville doing it, but they usually kind of choke when it comes to the postseason, either losing in the semi-state area or something. But another one is a little sleeper. They got upset in the sectional championship last year, went to overtime and lost, but I believe that it could be a new upcoming team that now just moved up to 4A, but the Hanover Central Wildcats have one of the best running backs in the state in Caden Verrett.
Hanover, as in like Hanover down on the river?
Hanover's actually, do you know Cedar Lake?
No.
It's kind of like a more upcoming area by Lowell.
Is that that's one of those places that you would call up north?
For us, at least for me, being from Hammond, that's a little south for me, about, I don't know, maybe 15, 18 miles south of Hammond. So
what isn't south of you? The world is south of you. You're almost in the North Pole, man.
That's a great point.
I mean, you guys make day trips to see Santa Claus.
Another guy that's on that team, though, with Hanover, you guys were just talking about Notre Dame, of course, Drake Bowen being their middle linebacker. But his younger brother, Dylan Bowen, goes to Hanover Central. And he's one of the top baseball players in the state for the junior class. But he actually just got an offer for football to Illinois. really good DB for Hanover Central against the Brickies this past week. He actually had there was 8 seconds left. Brickies were chasing 7 to the Wildcats, threw the ball up, game-winning INT, kept the Hanover moved to the Northwest Crossroads Conference last year, still has not lost a game in the NCC, and they have Drain this Friday.
Yeah, you talk about that Illinois offer. Purdue is losing football commits. They've lost several here lately, and I think that that's going to continue, sadly. And they've had the upper hand in recruiting the state of Indiana over Indiana. I expect that to change this year. Rob, thanks, sir. Rob A, baby. Rob, the producer, joining us here on this Wednesday. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break and get in with the captain, Rick Bozich. We're going to grade the area football teams so far and just talk about it all and see what else we can squeeze in. Where's the basketball recruiting? Braylon Mullins has set his decision date. Can Indiana land a second and gigantic in-state recruit? We'll find out. Plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with more right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, joined now by the man Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Mr. Bozich, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I know where Hanover is.
That's one place I actually, yes. Mr. Region, by the way. That's right, from Gary. He's got his steelworkers. You still have your steelworkers card?
Yes, I do. I kept it.
Did you?
Summers of 71, 72, and 73, baby.
I guarantee you there is not, I cannot even imagine. I've had some tough-ass jobs, but that's not one I want to imagine because I saw Rudy, baby. I watched it. I saw them guys working in that environment, but I've actually been in those environments. I had a job once where I called on those factories, and man, it is hot, and especially in the summer, it's 1 billion degrees in there.
I lost 35 pounds the summer of 73 in a steel mill.
That's crazy. I need a summer job there.
I definitely do. I'd have a heart attack though first.
I guarantee it. Oh man, how have you been? What's new with you?
I've been good. We're getting to the crossover season where we're going to have football and basketball going on, not to mention hockey and NBA starting up, and baseball playoffs are going on. So something to watch every night, something to get excited about. And the local college football season is really interesting because Indiana's on a historic run. Louisville's facing a must-win this weekend at Virginia. They've kind of hit a little slide here, and Kentucky gets the team of the week in college football, Vanderbilt, this Saturday.
First of all, what can you think of a bigger upset in recent times that matches that?
No. Having been to Vanderbilt many times and know what a dismal place it is. Usually
easy to play, according to Nick Saban. It's not hard to play at.
I mean, every time I've been there, the opposing team has nearly as many, if not more, fans there than Vandy has. And the stadium's been under construction for a few years. They're not the biggest game in town. The Titans are, the Predators are. There's probably more University of Tennessee fans in Nashville than there are Vandy fans. There's a ton of Alabama and Ole Miss fans in that, because it's such a centrally located in the SEC. There's so many people that moved there that are fans of other SEC teams. And for them to come in and beat Alabama and it not be a fluke, yeah, that was – I turned it on. When I was leaving the Louisville game, after I finished writing, Vanderbilt was up like 21-7, and I thought, by the time I get home, Alabama will be ahead. And I got home, and they weren't ahead, and so I watched it the rest of the way. And then to watch, I don't know if you watched any of it, but after they tore the goalpost down, they marched them to the river and threw them in.
Oh, that was much watched TV. I mean,
that was. If you know Nashville, that's not like going right outside the state. That's like a 2-mile march.
They said it was 3 miles.
It's crazy.
And not only is it 3 miles, Broadway in Nashville is a nonstop parade. Yeah. And if you saw it, they had cop cars out in the middle of the street. They were just going around lifting the goalpost above all the cars. It was actually a beautiful scene. It was great for college football. And the $100,000 or whatever that Vanderbilt has to pay, who cares? They could not have bought that kind of advertising for $1 million.
Right. And then later in the same night, an upset that would have been the upset of the night, if not for that game, was Arkansas beating Tennessee. I thought Tennessee was kind of underrated at 4 or 5, whatever they were in the poll, because they've been killing people. And they can't score in the first half, and Arkansas knocks them off. So some really good chaos in the SEC. It hadn't happened in the Big Ten. Oregon and Penn State and Ohio State have taken care of business so far, but the SEC, Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee have all lost already. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. The conference races are, but the Big Ten is, on one hand, it is like we is what we expected on one hand, and that's Ohio State. Everything else, no idea. Even though the Big Ten has Oregon and Penn State ranked inside the top 5, I don't know that they're a top 5 team. I just don't know that right now. I don't know that Penn State has the offense to be a top 5 team. They look like their defense is. Oregon, I don't know. I'm not saying that they're not good, but they haven't been challenged like they're going to be challenged this weekend. That will certainly solve one question. As Ohio State, Rick, plays Oregon, they play Penn State, and they play Indiana in addition to Michigan this year.
Right.
So they're going to be the linchpin in helping decide who their opponent or a proposed opponent in the Big Ten championship game would be. Hell, they could lose to Oregon and potentially somebody else, or even if they don't, I don't know how the tiebreakers, man. I need an MIT guy to tell me how that's going to work, but because I think that it's going to come down to tiebreakers, and there could be 4-11-1 Big Ten teams by the time we get to the end of the season. I'm not saying there will be, but there certainly could be. And then, I put an eye towards the college football playoff and those 12 spots. Notre Dame, they're going to get Notre Dame in at all costs, but Notre Dame cannot afford to lose to USC. They've got to play do they play Army and Navy?
Yeah, they do.
And they're both pretty decent this year.
They're undefeated, yeah.
So they're going to be tested. Losing to Northern Illinois at home was, to me, you have to overcome that, but they're still ranked inside the top 10, which I find a little bit of a joke. But the SEC and the Big Ten, their goal is to get 8 teams in. They both want 4 slots. I don't know that they'll get that, but that also may come into play for Indiana, Rick, depending on, unless they take care of business themselves, beat Ohio State, don't lose, well, then you don't have to worry about it. Because to me, obviously the champion of the Big Ten is automatically in. I think the runner-up is automatically in, even after they lose the championship game. That shouldn't be counted against them. Whoever came in third is going to be in. That 4th place team, it depends upon, what their record. If they're 11-1, that's going to determine that. And the SEC, of course, they're going to start beating up on each other.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Alabama has to go to Texas, I believe, or Georgia goes to Texas next week, maybe? Yeah. Georgia goes to Texas next week. Yeah, there's a lot of tough games ahead in the SEC. This is a big weekend in the Big Ten because I think I've read the stat. I don't know if it's 1 out of 8 or 1 out of 9. The only team that's gone across country in the Big Ten and won was Indiana going to play UCLA in the Rose Bowl. And the 2 Big Ten traditional teams, Ohio State and Penn State, are the ones making the trip this week. But they're both favored on the road. Oregon really hasn't been impressive in a lot of its games this year, and Ohio State's favored by 3.5. And I believe Penn State here is favored by 5.5 against a USC team where they're grumbling now about Lincoln Riley because of what they've lost to Michigan and then they lost to Minnesota. Yeah. So
not a great start for the West Coast teams other than Oregon.
No.
Oregon has not played anyone yet.
Make or break game for USC. It really is.
Because if they lose this, they're going to be on. I think they'll be on the outside looking in. Their numbers are just not good. Indiana, I think Indiana, again, their schedule is going to be their favor. The first college football poll will not come out until after they play Nebraska. If they're 7-0 at that time, they're going to be potentially in the top 12 of the college football poll. I'm not going to guarantee that, but it's kind of hard to ignore a team that's 7-0 that is putting up the numbers that they've put up, that has won the games the way they're winning them, averaging 48 points a game. Come on, man. They've already scored more points this season than he did all of last year. They're just doing it in a defiant way. So it's time to kind of quit, to start looking past who Indiana is instead of what they are. We'll see how that carries through. But yeah, the AP poll doesn't mean a lot, or means nothing, to be honest with you, when it comes to the college football playoffs. But the ACC, whether or not they get more than one team in is going to be tricky because Louisville has faded. You've got Clemson, who is kind of the foil for Miami. And is Clemson, did they lose yet? They lost a game?
Yeah, they lost the opening game to Georgia badly.
Yeah. So if they lose to Miami, to me, they're out.
They don't play. They wouldn't play until the ACC championship game.
Right, which they'll now that's a case where to me, they lose that game, they would be out. I don't know. I know that CFP would like to have them in, though, and that matters. I think that's going to be a disadvantage for Indiana. Simply, it says Indiana across the chest instead of Clemson or Notre Dame or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how many games Indiana ends up winning, obviously. But if they beat Nebraska the way they've won the first 6 games by 2 touchdowns or more and being in control, I would think they deserve to be in the top 12. But we'll see. Nebraska's probably be the best team they played all year. So we'll see how they do in that game. And both teams coming into it off a bye week should be rested, should be relatively healthy, and we'll see.
That's kind of rare too when you get both teams coming in off of a bye.
Right. Yeah.
And you mentioned that this will be the best team the Hoosiers have faced, which has been the case and will be the case for the 3rd consecutive game. Maryland, then Northwestern, now Nebraska. Then they'll get a Washington team that beat Michigan. So, life is not going to be easy for the Hoosiers, and it definitely will. But what will give them is legitimacy from those who are still not seeing it the Hoosiers as a legitimate force.
Yeah, I see that Washington's got at Iowa this week, and then they have a bye week before they come to Indiana. Washington, in their only trip across the country, got beat by Rutgers. So, that's an advantage coming across. If you're the home team and the other team has to travel 4 or 5 hours across 3 time zones to play you, that's an advantage.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a second best team in the Big Ten right now, but I've got Indiana, Penn State, Oregon. They should all be in the same group to me, but we'll see. Ohio State plays all of those teams, which is going to be kind of it will set the trend for sure. Luke Fickell not having a good run, man. He'll get another year, of course, at least, but things are not looking good in Wisconsin. Of course, we know about Purdue. I'm not sure Ryan Walters is there after this year, maybe because it's hard to change football coaches, but it looks terrible at Purdue, not great at Wisconsin. If maybe they see some sunshine on the horizon, I don't know, but Luke Fickell's deal is kind of flip-floppy right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the guy that takes the biggest hit from Vanderbilt beating Alabama, because Alabama went into Camp Randall Stadium and ran Wisconsin out of its own home stadium. And people thought, then Alabama the next week goes and beats Georgia while Alabama's really good. And then they lose to Vanderbilt. And then people in Wisconsin have to say, hey, wait a minute, we weren't even competitive against Alabama. They did come back and blast Purdue, but they face back-to-back road games against Rutgers and Northwestern now. So we'll see what Wisconsin really has. Purdue, that's a tough situation. You're only 2 years into a 5-year deal. He's already fired the offensive coordinator, which tells you there's a lot of heat. As I heard you mention to the previous guest, they've had at least 2, I think it's even 3 decommitments from not a really very highly rated class. A 2026 guys already decommitted. So once that negativity ball starts rolling down the hill, it's hard to stop it. And the alarming thing is, in the games they've lost, they haven't been competitive. I mean, they've gotten just squashed by Notre Dame, and then they got squashed by Wisconsin. And, it doesn't help them when they have to hear about how good Indiana's playing. That's got to make things very distasteful at Purdue because I think they view themselves as the better football program than Indiana. And I don't know if that'll motivate them to do something. It was a bad hire in the first place. Ryan Walters had no head coaching experience. He's a defensive guy who was coming in to replace an offensive-minded system. And somebody who is familiar with Purdue football told me that, if you're going to be at a place at Purdue, you're not going to beat people on defense because you're not going to get the studs you need to have. You got to build your program on offense because you can get a quarterback, you can get some receivers, you can find a way to score points, but you're not going to have a dominant defense at Purdue, and it's turned out to be correct.
Someone just mentioned something about the old West Division being exposed, and as I look at the current standings,
it's like Indiana got out of jail.
Yes, you take the Pac-12 teams out. Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State, Nebraska jumps in there. Where I guess they were in the West, but then Michigan,
right?
So. Yes, it was the get out of jail free card because all those teams from the old East Division sitting up at the top, especially Indiana, where they don't have to have Ohio State or Penn State or someone breathing down their neck in game one, which is how a lot of that has been. Grading these area teams so far, of course, let's start with Indiana to get out of the way. I think that they get an A+ for obvious reasons. Not that they don't have things they need to clean up. The defense is going to have to tighten up. Their secondary is going to have to tighten up. The defensive line has been okay. They didn't get to the quarterback against Nebraska or Northwestern much. They're going to need to do that against Riola against Nebraska to put some pressure on him. He is going to be the best quarterback that they probably have faced this year, even though both Billy Edwards Jr. played well for Maryland, and even Jack Louse for Northwestern. He had a much better showing after having that bye week after going 8 for 27. So it shows you how these guys can get better quickly. But no doubt Indiana is with high marks. Ohio State with high marks. Purdue, they get an F. They're flunked out. Notre Dame, I'll give them a B. They haven't done much, but they are B-. They lost to Northern Illinois. I don't care. That's just a mark that's not coming off. Louisville starting to fade a little bit, man.
Louisville at this point, I'd probably give them a B-. Won the first three, had a nice win against Georgia Tech at home. Lost a game they could have won at Notre Dame by a touchdown, and then they came home and lost to SMU, a game they never led. They were down, I think, 11, came back and tied it, and the last three drives on offense, they couldn't score, and they lost. There was a replay review of an SMU fumble that looked like the guy fumbled, and they called it a fumble on the field, but the review overturned it and gave SMU the ball back, and they scored 4 or 5 plays later, and that was the ball game. So, that losing at home to SMU, not good. And Louisville's schedule the rest of the year is actually pretty tough. After they play Virginia's a surprising 4-1 this weekend, then they come home and play unbeaten Miami. They still have to go to Clemson. They have to go to Kentucky. They got Pitt. Pitt's 5-0. They've got some work to do to have the kind of season that they hope to have, and they were hoping to have, I think, a 9 or 3-10-2 season. At this point, it's looking probably more like 8-4, 7-5.
And then Kentucky, they've had a little bit of up and down, but their ups have been up. When you go down to Oxford and beat Lane Kiffin, that was a big shocker.
Yeah, I'd give Kentucky a solid B. I mean, they had a terrible performance against South Carolina at home and got beat, and then played Georgia tough and lost, and then they won the next 2 against Ohio University and Ole Miss. Coming off an off week against the Vanderbilt team that should be feeling like they're on top of the world. I think Kentucky's favored by 2 touchdowns to beat Vanderbilt at home. And then they go to Florida, and then they have Auburn at home. So Kentucky should win the next 3, and that would get them to what? 6-2. And the last part of the season is tough. They got Tennessee on the road and Texas on the road. So Kentucky's probably looking at a 8-4, 7-5 season,
which won't be bad. The SEC and the Big Ten meeting this week in Nashville, I believe, to talk about a potential, we've heard this before though, scheduling alliance, but that would start and end with the SEC going to 9 conference games, and they have fought that year in and year out because they like having that extra home game and making the money, and I get that, but if they're going to do this, they're going to have to go to 9 games to make things equal, which would then not only give them less non-con games to schedule, and then if you are going to schedule a Big Ten game on top of that, now you've only got 2, so they would cut it in half in essence.
Yeah, that's really intriguing for the local area because I think if they force the SEC to go to 9 conference games and then play a Big Ten team, that could very well spell the end of the Kentucky-Louisville series.
But could it introduce the Indiana-Kentucky series?
I guess it's possible. I don't know. I mean, would it be a thing where you'd always play the same team every year from the other conference?
Probably not, but that would sure be fun.
Yeah, it'd also be fun to see Indiana play Florida or Texas.
Absolutely.
Texas A&M.
Absolutely.
Venues
it would be a great mix.
Yeah,
absolutely. And to go into those environments and change back and forth. Absolutely. Occasionally break out the bourbon barrel, but I think that has been permanently retired. It's actually on display at Indiana. I think they won the last one, so they still have that.
I'm pretty sure they did win the last one. Yeah.
Haven't seen that one for a while, but yeah, that'll be very interesting to see if they can get that done. And other than that, that's Indiana on a break this week. Who does Louisville play this week?
At Virginia.
At Virginia, which, like you said, has been a surprise. What's Kentucky doing this week?
Kentucky's at home against the mighty Vanderbilt Commodores.
Oh, yeah. And our 14th.
And guess who's going to the game?
You.
Rick Pitino, right? You had Rick, right?
I saw. Yeah, I saw. I didn't know what that was, that he was going to something.
He's coming into Lexington.
Kentucky game versus Vanderbilt.
He loves Mark Pope, the new Kentucky basketball coach. I think he's over the moon that one of his former players is there now, the coach at Kentucky. So he's coming in to go to a Kentucky basketball practice, and then he's staying over to go to the football game, which has Kentucky fans all excited and has Louisville fans all annoyed because he still really is sort of on the
Kentucky guy.
And he's gone back. He used to be on the outs with Kentucky. He once famously flipped the crowd off after a loss in Rupp Arena. But now he's lovey-dovey with Kentucky, and he's not very nicey with Louisville. So,
just the fun. It's
never ends here, man.
It's not as exciting without Rick Pitino around, though. I got to tell you, he made a
top
fun
25 team this year. I just finished my ballot for the AP preseason college poll. I think I put St. John's in there.
Do you vote in the football poll?
I don't vote in the football poll, just the basketball poll. And I can't say where, but I did put Indiana in the top 25. One of 4 Big Ten teams I voted for.
Oh, in basketball.
Talk about it until it comes out.
In basketball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the AP college basketball poll will be released not next Monday, but a week from Monday. So
I'm going to assume, and this is an assumption, I'm going to assume they're in the top 15. But I
think they'll be in the 15 to 20 range.
Yeah.
Most of the magazines have them there. Blue Ribbon has them there. They'll be in the 15 to 20 range. Were they picked to win Purdue was picked to win the Big Ten at Big Ten Media Day, right? Or they don't.
We'll talk about that. I'm still not understanding that. But Rick Bozich from WD.com is with us. We've got lots more coming up here from the Hard Truth Studios, and we're about to deliver some more hard truth. When we come back, we'll talk about what's coming up in the basketball season. It's been hard to figure out. I was just at Big Ten basketball media days last week, so we got to see every single coach that was there. Lots of players also, and we'll be back to talk about all of that and more when we come back.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods
I gotta
Restaurants
give
and
Ruby a
Quaffon
treat.
Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. And Brian got his picks in for this week. The ISB quick college.
You live in Florida?
He does. He got him. He got him in quick, man. But he's taking care of business first before the hurricane hits. I like where your head is, Brian, but we're still thinking about it.
Don't you go to a place down there that's going to be hit?
Cape Coral. I think I checked it just a little bit ago, and it looks like the projected model has it going where they're just south of the cone. But unfortunately, the Ugly Grouper, one of our sponsors, is in the direct path. And this is a direct hit, man. This is not a lot of times are more like an angle. Whoo, this is going to bring a serious surge. I think. I'm not a weather guy, but I would think that just coming from that direction, it's going to have all the water going in the same direction. And boy, some of those outlying places like Anna Maria Island, I remember going down to Sanibel after Ian,
and the water just washed over the whole damn island. I mean, it's just like it's not there. But so hopefully it calms down, and we're wishing everybody safety and all of that. But we appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and we're thinking about you guys. But
Alex, I talked to my son Alex yesterday. He said he thought that Mike Pegram, the guy who founded Pete's, his place is down there, sort of in the path too.
Well, so Mike was just at an Indiana game last week.
Yeah, he was at the Maryland game, the one I went to.
Yeah. He had a funeral he had to come up for, and I think he is in like the Sarasota area, maybe.
Right.
Which is right just east of Anna Maria Island. So yeah, that's the same area. So thinking about everybody down there. We appreciate all of our listeners there, but we're thinking about you. Let's see what. Oh yeah, Big Ten basketball. I have no idea on this year. Purdue being picked to win the conference is a little mind-boggling to me, because they're not Purdue without Zach Edey. I don't. What the hell are people thinking? He's the 2-time college player of the year that he changed every freaking game. If they would have sat him, they wouldn't have done what they did last year. So why not having him? Do people think that they're going to be that good? I mean, I get it. Brayton Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are solid, but they're not elite. I think we saw that last year against UConn. They're not what I call elite. Neither of those guys will be playing in the NBA. Trey Kaufman-Renn or Caleb First is not Zach Edey. The 7-footers they have on the bench, they're young, inexperienced. They're not Zach Edey. And Omar Ballo will bounce those 7-footers into the 14th row when he puts a big hip check on them. So I don't know who else is going to be a problem in the league. I'll be honest with you. We just don't know enough yet. I expect Dusty May to put a good team together. Tom Izzo's always going to put a good team together. Brad Underwood always puts a great team together. So I honestly, I don't know, Rick.
I think it's a sign of respect for Matt Painter and what he's done over time, that he always has.
But is it reality?
I don't think there is a favorite in the Big Ten this year. I think any team you pick, you could poke a hole in it. But that, I think people think because Purdue has its starting guards back, and whether they're not NBA players or not, they're good college players, and that's where they're playing. That gives them a chance in almost every game. And Kaufman-Renn and First are solid players. I mean, they're not NBA guys either, but they're solid, experienced players. And with Matt Painter's ability to coach and figure things out, that Purdue is a safe bet. You could pick IU. I mean, they've got the players, but they aren't proven. It's a group that has to prove they can play together, and they didn't even make the tournament last year. I guess another team. I think I ranked 4 Big Ten teams: Indiana, Purdue, UCLA was another one of them, and they didn't make the tournament.
See, I keep forgetting UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA is going to be good, and I'm trying to think of the 4th one that I ranked, but it wasn't
Maryland?
Michigan State. No, it wasn't Michigan State.
Rutgers.
It was. I think it was Rutgers, because I think they like the freshmen Harper and Ace Bailey. So we'll see. The problem is the Big Ten, once again, doesn't have any top 10 teams. So we're going to extend the streak of another year of the Big Ten not winning a national championship.
Most likely, and that's going to have to change. I mean, you've got 18 stinking teams in your league, and year in, year out, you have some of the best talent. That's a weird streak, man. It really is. When you have some of the most traditional basketball programs, Indiana, of course, at the top of that list, UCLA now added to that list. Some people would include Purdue on that list, but they've never.
I mean, how many times have they lost the title game? I can think of at least 6. IU lost to Maryland. Purdue lost to UConn. Michigan lost it twice. I think once to Carolina and once to Louisville. That's 4.
Did Illinois lose one?
Illinois lost one to Carolina in 2005. Michigan State, I think, lost one in there. That's at least 6.
So it's not like they haven't been at the top. They just haven't been able to get over the top.
Right.
Kind of like they've had the Buffalo Bills syndrome here for too long, man. Hey, how about baseball? We're in the baseball playoffs. Playoffs.
It's fun.
It is. Your Padres that you picked looking kind of strong.
Yeah. I mean, they lost the first game, but came back and handled the Dodgers the last 2 games, and series has a little edge to them. The Padres have a lot of hot dog in them, and I think the Dodgers are feeling the heat, man. When you're the team that everybody expects to win, when you're the team that has the highest payroll, when you're the team that your fans, anything less than a World Series championship is a failure, you feel the pressure. And their pitching staff has been so beaten down. They have at least 6 pitchers who aren't either unavailable or aren't really totally healthy. And you're not going to win that way. So, and the Mets are surprising the Phillies. Most people thought the Phillies would win that series. The Yankees look like they're in trouble a little bit against the Royals. And the Tigers, Kyle Neddenrip's Tigers, are shocking the world so far. I don't know if they can beat Cleveland or not, but it's 1-1. So it's good for baseball.
You've got an Indiana, I believe, a pitcher on Cleveland.
Tim Herron, big left-handed relief pitcher.
And then, of course, Schwartz with the Phillies, who were kind of upset last year. See if they can make a different run this time around. But the Padres and the Phillies, that would be something to see.
Yeah, that'd be a good series. I'm not going to say this the right way. I like to see teams win where fans haven't ever celebrated something. So I'd like to see the Padres get there and win. Their fans, they've got great fans. They drew 3 million people this year. They've never won a World Series.
How do they not have a sponsorship with UPS?
Because of the colors. Cleveland, I don't think they've won a World Series since 1948. Their fans are very loyal. They deserve to be rewarded. There's one team in there that's won like 29 World Series, and I would be happy if they didn't win a 30th or whatever the number is.
Yes, that would be ridiculous. I don't like that either. Quickly, Terry Francona, a great hire in my opinion for the Reds.
Yeah,
boy, they don't do things like that often, but man, they've got a great coach that I think knows how to manage all of this young, incredible talent that they have. If the Reds can hold on to these guys.
Yeah, I mean, he won at Boston. He won at Cleveland, not a World Series, but he got him, into the World Series. And now he's ready to do the same. And he took a year off. To get his health. He had some serious health issues. And the Reds have good young talent. Now they need to take the next step of making some intelligent, strategic moves in free agency to close up whatever their weaknesses are, spend a little bit more money, and they can do that. It's a winnable division. They ought to be able to get in there and make themselves – Cincinnati, and I know Cincinnati is a great baseball town, and their fans have still been spoiled by how good the Reds were during the Big Red Machine era, and they haven't won the World Series since 1990. And if they get good again, that place will be packed every night.
Absolutely. Braylon Mullins sets his recruitment decision date. That is coming up on 2 weeks from today, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
So he's got North Carolina, UConn, and Indiana. I think it's actually between UConn and Indiana. I made a prediction months ago that it would be Indiana. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not. That would be huge for Mike Whitson, but it would also be just as huge if he misses on him as far as an optics standpoint.
Yeah, I don't know what to think. I agree with you. I think it is UConn or Indiana. I think UConn has a lot to offer. They put a lot of guys in the pros. They win. They're on national TV in the Big East. And they've won back-to-back national championships. And their coaching staff has been very, very aggressive going after him. So you hate to get outworked for an in-state player. But maybe the draw of playing in Indiana and playing with Trent Sisley will be enough to get him to come to IU. And he will believe Mike Woodson when he has talked to him about how they're going to change the offense and shoot more threes.
We'll see. It's a bye week, so I got to say bye, Rick. I appreciate you as always, my friend, from WDRB.com.
I'm probably coming to the Nebraska game, so I'll probably see you for Big Noon week from Saturday.
All right. We'll talk then. We'll talk before. Right. Rick Bozich joining us from WDRB.com, wrapping things up today. Big thanks to Dylann Sinn. Kyle couldn't be with us. He had a phone call come in, so we'll catch back up with him the next time around. Thanks to Rob, the producer. Most importantly, each and every one of you. We'll be back to do this again tomorrow. Special guest Stephen Bardo joins us. Shannon, Bob Kravitz, and Kristen Airy as well. And we look forward to coming back to the Hard Truth Studios to bring you more Hard Truth. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.